Mark Kendall, vampire.
I'm not wearing a costume.
But you can call me
The Riddler.
With the announcement of Sonic getting mixed reviews, the only hope for this film lies on Jim Carrey's shoulders. Now, I actually saw a meme floating around the internet that Jim is suffering from back problems, and that's because he's been carrying this film all alone. Now, although early reviews are a mixed bag, mainly on the negative side, well, we're excited to see what Jim Carrey does with the role of Dr. Eggman Robotnik.
No choice.
What the?
Are you in charge here?
Yes, I am.
Nope!
I'm
Wrong. I'm in charge.
It's been 5 years since Jim Carrey would work in a Hollywood blockbuster film after the highly anticipated but generally disliked sequel to the 1994 classic, Dumb and Dumber. Now, the follow-up, it was panned by fans and critics alike, sitting at a 30% rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Yikes. Now, if you've been following me over the years, you know I'm a massive Jim Carrey fan, and I was also an extra in Dumb and Dumber 2. Now, I actually had a line, but it ended up on the cutting room floor.
for years.
Nerd.
Now, you know you're a huge fan when you'll drive out to Atlanta, Georgia and sleep in your car just to be in a Jim Carrey project. But I think Jim, he'd admit himself that some of his projects, well, some are better than others. Now, in this video, we're gonna take a look back at Jim Carrey's film career, which has spanned over 36 years. Now, we could make a best and worst video on all your favorite movie stars. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking Adam Sandler, or Will Ferrell, or Jennifer Aniston. We need recommendations from you guys in the comments down below, and if you like this series, let us know by hitting that like button. Now, we're gonna get into this list, and we're gonna go from the worst of the worst to the best of the best. So, follow with me. Also, let me know if you agree. Now, first off, we have Jim's one and only misfire from the 90s. I'm talking about Cable Guy!
Hey, wait, come back.
Well, look who decided to show.
Directed by Ben Stiller, well, audiences, they had just fallen in love with Jim Carrey, and they were ready to see him take on a darker role, or even play the villain.
How about this?
Now, it still fared well at the box office, earning over $100 million against a budget of $47 million, and it's gone on to become a cult classic. Now, this isn't his worst film, it's like the best of the worst. But let's move on down this list. For the die-hard Jim Carrey fans, they've taken the time to check out his first Hollywood film role in the 1985 vampire comedy horror titled Once Bitten. Let's take a look.
That the winner of the best costume contest is Mark Kendall as a vampire.
I'm not wearing a costume!
And now 20-something Jim, well, he'd grown a lot as an actor since his work on Copper Mountain. We'll get to that. But this film, it's cheesy, and it has tons of awkward dialogue. Now, the plot, it revolves around a teenage Jim trying to lose his virginity while being pursued by a 400-year-old cougar vampire. Now, there's no point in watching this one unless you want to see Jim in his first Hollywood production. He did show some early signs that he could act as well as be funny, but the film as an overall product, it's worth skipping. Okay, I gotta go back to Dumb and Dumber 2, which was one of the biggest letdowns for me in cinematic history. My expectations, they were so high, and the original film had actually changed my life. And of course, you know, I drove out to Atlanta and slept in my car just to be a part of it. Now, while I was there, I got to read some of the script and I had high hopes. But upon its release, well, people were disappointed that they even bothered. Now, there was one scene that did give me a good chuckle, and this involved the fart game.
Okay, fine. Lloyd and I will play one-on-one.
Yeah, head to head.
How can you play one-on-one? If you smell a fart and you didn't do it, isn't it obvious the other guy did?
I thought you said you never played before.
Now, in defense of the film's failure, it grossed $169.8 million worldwide against a budget of $50 million. Now, another flop in Jim Carrey's later years was the incredible Burt Wonderstone, and this was opposite Steve Carell.
You kids want to see some real magic?
Yeah! Steve, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be performing today.
Just giving the people what they want.
That is a terrible trick to do for children. What if they try and copy you?
I'll sue them.
Similar to Dumb and Dumber 2, the incredible Burt Wonderstone, well, it ain't sitting so hot on Rotten Tomatoes at 37% run. It was also listed as one of Hollywood's biggest box office bombs of 2013 when it made $27.4 million against the $30 million production cost. or budget. You know what I mean? Now finally we have what is arguably Jim Carrey's worst movie ever. It's titled Copper Mountain, and this is from 1983.
I'm gonna learn how to ski. Hey, that's the spirit. Hey, and it's easy, all you have to do is imitate Jean-Claude Kitty. Get out of here.
Now I actually rented this movie, and the best way I can describe it as being awkward. Now Jim, he was still a teenage impressionist, and this film, it seemed to have no real script or storyline. Now it turns out that the funding for this production, it was gathered to show off a Canadian ski resort and a local rock band. Now Jim, he does his best to entertain, but his slapstick impressions mixed in with the real world, it's just like hard to watch. On the upside, it does show that he was willing to do anything for a laugh. Although I feel like more people were laughing at him than with him. You know, take a look.
I like to stand at poolside. Oh, and occasionally get happy feet. Whoa.
Okay, so the worst of the worst is done, but there are a lot of films that fall into the mid-ground, and we're just gonna run through a list real quick. The number 23 was Jim's big attempt at a murder mystery type film, and is as far from comedy as it gets. Mr. Popper's Penguins, a family film, but nowhere as good as The Grinch. Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Well, it was meant to be an ongoing franchise like Harry Potter, but it just never happened. Fun with Dick and Jane in 2005, it was okay. Yes Men in 2008 was about the same, maybe a little worse. And there are a few others, but let's start moving up the ladder and talking about the best of the best.
Well, you've had quite a year if you think about it, haven't you? Unbelievable. Yeah. The phone is ringing off the hook. You know, it's mostly good stuff, you know?
This, of course, brings us to the year 1994, the year of Jim Carrey. Now, it was his breakout year where he became the biggest star in Hollywood and would command a salary upwards of $10 million a flick. Now, from worst to best, I'd list the films in the order of their release. Ace Ventura, then The Mask, followed by Dumb and Dumber. Now, according to Business Insider, Jim, he was paid $7 million for his role as Lloyd Christmas against Jeff Daniels, who only took home $50K. Ouch.
I desperately want to make love to a schoolboy.
Moving up the list, one of my personal favorite roles for Jim was his portrayal of the Riddler in Batman Forever.
Riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
Although Batman Forever and the follow-up Batman and Robin were poked fun at for their cartoonish style, a superhero gig is and was the biggest role you could book in Hollywood. And Jim's portrayal of Edward Nygma, it was phenomenal. At this point in time, Jim Carrey was at the height of his success, but apparently not everyone was a fan. Actor Tommy Lee, he openly hated him.
There were elements in the character that I don't like.
He did, however, hit it off with Val Kilmer. Now, I would tie this film up with his work on Liar Liar, which although it was a family film, it was still smart and witty and vulgar at times, and it was an overall winner.
Everybody's been real nice.
Well, that's because you have big jugs. I mean, your boobs are huge. I mean, I want to squeeze them.
Next up, we have Bruce Almighty from 2003. Now a decade into superstardom, this was a great return to what Jim does best. A regular guy given superpowers and chaos ensues. Now in film school, they actually call these stories genie in a bottle films. Now you know. Now it was an all-around enjoyable flick. It's almost identical to Liar Liar in story structure, but it's got a great supporting cast. And Jim proved that even though he was a little older, he could still bring in the laughs and the big bucks at the box office. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas has to be added to this list. He did phenomenal work, and I feel his portrayal will be rivaled for many decades to come.
I really don't like them. No, I don't.
Finishing up our list, my final three picks, well, none of them are even comedies. Now, I think the best Jim Carrey movies of all time are in this order. Now, in the third spot, we have 2004's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. In second place, 1999's The Man on the Moon. And finally, 1998's The Truman Show. All three films stretched our imaginations in different ways. Now, The Truman Show, it had us all wondering if people were watching us, and it was pretty symbolic for the future we live in now, with cameras everywhere and people literally streaming their lives.
Talking to.
Now, for his work, Jim, he picked up a Golden Globe, as he did with his work on Man on the Moon. Now, many people felt that he was snubbed by the Oscars for not even getting a nomination, but maybe Tommy Lee, he's part of the Academy.
No, yes, sir.
Man on the Moon was an incredible biopic of the late Andy Kaufman and arguably the most beautiful film Jim Carrey has ever starred. Eternal Sunshine, it also had elements of heartbreak and technology that no one had ever seen before. And it's Jim's most out-of-the-box performance. It's him doing some serious, he's just the not Jim Carrey that you came to know. Also, the film I Love You, Philip Morris, it was great, but no one ended up seeing that movie. So I think I'm just gonna throw it in as a footnote. All right, that wraps up my list for the best and worst Jim Carrey films. Which one was your favorite? Perhaps you guys wanna make your own list in the comments down below. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Also, let us know if you like this series, because we could do it again. Not only on actors, but we could also do it on rappers, musicians, or YouTubers. The best and the worst can go on for many a year. But we need your support, we need your eyeballs, so let us know if you wanna see more of these. And I hope Jim Carrey checks out this video. I think I'm his #1 fan. Also, if I don't see you guys later, well, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Bye!